Hey everyone, Glenn and Brittany here with a market update for Greater Vancouver for June 2023. More of the same a little bit in June. Volume is still quite low. So the total number of listings on the market were around 17% below the 10-year average. And the total number of sales that happened in June were about 8% below the 10-year average. So there's definitely more demand out there than there are listings. So that's consistent, but the volume, just the amount of listings and the amount of sales that are happening are just lower, much lower than what we're used to. Brittany, what's I know the biggest talk in the market right now, of course, is interest rates.
Yeah.
So are they gonna go up next week? I believe July 9th, the next announcement?
12th, July 12th. July 12th. So yeah, so that's, I think that's the biggest topic of conversation that everybody is wondering right now. Is interest rates going to go up? And is Bank of Canada going to get to their 2% inflation rate by the end of the year? So good news is we heard a little bit earlier this month is that inflation went down to 3.3%. All what we've been wanting it to go. It was a big drop. We raised a little bit the month before, and now we had a bigger drop. So not that I'm going to bore you with some things, but the Bank of Canada looks more at the core inflation, which takes out some of the energy numbers and so forth. So the core inflation did go down a little bit, not as much as they wanted it to. And I think that's due to jobs still really being created in this economy. And I think they want to see that go down a little bit or even balance itself out. So I think the Bank of Canada is waiting for those job created numbers. And then they will see whether or not, I guess, make their decision next week. But I think a fair warning for everyone is that be prepared. Be prepared for a 0.25% because Bank of Canada did say they will do anything to get to that 2%. And they're coming through with their promises. So just be prepared.
Yeah. And I think what's also interesting too, which is, when we read the real estate board stats, I guess a lot of people are surprised that even though volume is down, that there's still a considerable amount of activity given the rates, the current rates, and with the possibility of them inching up, a little bit next month and so on. So people, when the rates first started to come down, it took a little while for prices to, or when the rates first started to go up, it took a little while for prices to come down and people started to get back just along with their plans. But now it's, I guess people just get used to the current situation fairly quickly, and then they just continue on with their plans, right?
Definitely. It takes 6 to 9 months for our market to react and then get used to something that comes in that's not what the normal was for the past couple of years.
Right. So one of the things that we always talk about in our videos and in our posts and content is how different areas perform, like neighborhoods, property types, and price points. They perform very differently than one another. So you've got some stats on certain neighborhoods that are very, very busy. And I think also in these stats that came out, the real estate board, they did say like the majority of the activity is in the condos and townhomes, the attached properties, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you're definitely seeing that. So we saw that when the market started to change, Vancouver didn't go as high as some of the suburbs, right? So when we did have that little correction, Vancouver didn't correct like some of the suburbs that had such a big leap in value. And so obviously when you have a huge leap in value, you also can correct big time as well too. So Vancouver, we can see a huge fluctuation in that. But what I did notice is that people were jumping back into the detached house market in Vancouver, and we're going, oh my gosh, this is great. This is what, everybody's been waiting on the West Side. And then now I've started to see those stats cool a little bit. So we're at about a balanced market, but at the same time, as you said before, it all really depends on the price point. So anything below 3.5 million is still a seller's market. Anything above 3.5 million is seriously still, you have to look at the two sides of things. It's still above 3.5. It's going to be very balanced or very much a buyer's market, but anything
Right.
below is sellers. And there's always those in the marketplace with condos and townhomes, especially as well too. But, when I'm looking at that, we are in sort of a loose seller's market, which meaning around like you're just hovering above that 20% for the condos and for detached houses in Vancouver, just in Vancouver in a whole. But then when I'm looking at those lower numbers, it's funny how I go to the suburbs, like I'm looking at Coquitlam, looking at North Van, looking at New West, they are all incredibly high. Like condos and townhomes are now selling at a 69% sales ratio in some areas. That is almost every 7 in 10 homes coming on the market are selling, which is big numbers, right? So it just goes to show lack of inventory being the biggest one, right? And detached houses are, 40+%. So, and that's in North Van as well too, where, those values are quite high in North Van compared to these other suburbs. So we're still seeing a lot of volume out there, but also a lot of low inventory, which is making these numbers seem a lot higher. So,
right. And just to even kind of paint the picture of how different areas are performing differently. We just did an evaluation on a 1-bedroom apartment in Cole Harbour, and the sales ratio for Cole Harbour was 9% for June, but the 0 to 1 bedrooms was 39. And so when you look at the rest of downtown, most of them are still in that seller's market range above the 20%. But then, so when you look at that 9%, as a buyer, you might, and you're looking downtown, you might get a little bit excited about that. As a seller, not so much. But then when you look over at the different price points, it started anything that was above 1.25, it started to kind of creep a little bit from a seller's into a buyer's. But it wasn't until you were over 2 million or 2.5 where it really fell into a buyer's. So certain numbers, and especially in a neighborhood like Cole Harbour, where you do have $650,000 condos that you can buy, and you also have $8 million 2-beds you can buy. Really? So it's kind of, I guess the point I'm getting at is to understand the numbers and then dive into them a little bit further to sort of make sense of them. Like the numbers are what they are, but then what do they mean? Like, why is that way? And why is another area this way? So you kind of got to make sense of the whole thing and understand what you're either trying to move into or offload, right?
Yeah, there's no blanket number for anything, that's for sure. There's not just, one number for this. You got to sometimes, well, us, that we really love stats. So, we really look and dive in and what does everything mean, right? Especially when we're doing market evaluations and so forth. We're going, okay, what's moving? What's not moving? What's a big 1-bedroom? What's a small 2-bed? Price per square foot. There's numbers for everything. And that's when we're looking at all of sort of what's happening over the past 6 months. It's changing so rapidly at the same time, because as we start seeing a lot of 1-bedrooms go, then all of a sudden a lot of 2-bedrooms go, and then a lot of townhouses go, and then those townhomes may be able to move up to a half duplex that go to a detached house. So the numbers are changing because of that stepping stone of how people move up in the marketplace. And that's the reality of most people in this marketplace, is that there's a lot of stepping stones. You're generally never going to get, the thing that you want the very first time, right?
Right. Good point. So yeah, to wrap things up, moving forward, what do you think? I mean, I know the next rate announcement is going to play a little bit of a role. I don't think it would be significant enough to really change anybody's plans who's out there looking to buy per se. And then we're also coming into full-fledged summer.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be people going away. I mean, there's people buying real estate every single day of the year, but of course the market could lose a little momentum just from travel plans and vacation plans, summer holidays, right? Yeah.
So my thoughts is that, I think we're going to come into a July that's still going to be fairly active. I wouldn't say crazy like our June was, but fairly active. I think August is going to be a little bit slower. And I feel like our kickoff to fall might just take a couple weeks to get back into the swing of things again. But, maybe having a later fall. But then again, things change so fast, because in Vancouver and Greater Vancouver, all we need is one good piece of news for our market to take off. And let's not forget that as soon as we start hearing whisperings of interest rates finally going back down again, it's going to make a lot of people excited to get back in the market and to actually move. Even more people move again. So lower interest rates generally mean more people in the marketplace, as we saw. That was pretty evident during the pandemic.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that about sums it up for me.
Yep, me too.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching if you made it this far. And if you would benefit from a conversation about your local market, please reach out. We are more than happy to help.
Thanks, everyone.